And I'm going to start the timer. Oh, we are live this morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm here with David Gibson. And David, I told you 30 seconds. We tried it. It worked. It wasn't quite enough to get our live link up.
No worries. I did see the update, though, that it came across. So
it came across right about the time the 30-second timer was done. So
it is
we got to run the 30-second timer twice. All right. I have David Gibson on the show today. He is, in my opinion, he is a LinkedIn live streaming expert. He has done a great job building a highly successful show for the oil and gas industry. So we're going to talk about live streaming and how you build an audience and build a live streaming show. So I'm going to toss it. I always get my arrows wrong. Over to you, David, to introduce yourself.
I did it wrong
I'm going to go put some comments out on the LinkedIn.
Yeah,
no worries. Take it away, David.
Ryan, thank you so much for having me on the show. I really do appreciate it. First and foremost, thanks to everybody out there that is watching or that agreed to be able to attend the event. We really do appreciate that. So as we're having the conversation, guys, please comment in the comment section. Let us know where you're watching from. If you guys have any questions for myself and or for Ryan, please engage with us. The whole reason why we're doing this live, we'll get probably more into that here in a minute. As he said, my name is David Gibson. I am the host of a company called Gibson Reports. It's an oil field market research firm. I guess that's what you could call us. We just kind of do whatever we want. We are celebrating our 2 years this month. So yay, pat on the back for ourselves. I bought myself a nice new desk chair for it. I'm also the host of a LinkedIn Live, also YouTube, and possibly like Ryan, who's broadcasting live on Twitch today. So possibly Twitch, Facebook, some other streams and things of that nature. So, but anyways, yes, Gibson Report Show, or Vidor Locksmith Show. I'm out of practice. I'm taking this month off from doing the show. But yes, Vidor Locksmith Show, where we interview and we also bring on technical subject matter experts from the oil and gas industry to come on and be able to educate not only myself, but the rest of the industry and anybody who else wants to be able to get a little bit smarter. So that's kind of what the show is. And, as far as my background with LinkedIn Live, I was selected to be one of the first 50 LinkedIn Live users out of the 650 million users that are on LinkedIn. I was in the first group of 50 that was able to go ahead and broadcast live. So obviously the very first in oil and gas, or the very first in the energy business as a whole. So it's been a fun ride. I've learned a lot of lessons, and I'm really looking forward to answering y'all's questions and being able to share some of my lessons learned.
Well, thank you, David. Yes, later on, I'm probably going to ask you about how you got to be among the first 50. But here's a little bit of how
pure luck
of how my live shows work. If you haven't attended one or been a part of them before, so I will ask David some questions, but I put some audience questions down below that kind of go along with what we're talking about. But our first one is, what's the weather like where you're from? Usually, people start their show and they ask you where you're from. I'm going to ask you what the weather's like. But before that, I'm going to tell everybody right now it is blue skies and sunny. I think it's going to be 90 degrees Fahrenheit today. So it'll be a good day to, our pools are closed in my town. So play in the water in the backyard and turn on the hose or something.
Where are you broadcasting from, Ryan?
I'm from Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Oh, wow.
I believe you're from somewhere in Texas, Houston.
Yeah,
area, I think.
So, no, actually, I'm originally from the Dallas area, but I live just outside of Austin, Texas, in what we call the Texas Hill Country. I'm broadcasting live from Wimberley, Texas. Today, I believe the high is 101. It's actually kind of a little bit of overcast right now this morning. So,
it's going to be hotter where you are than I am, but that's good. All right, I gotta jump into my questions. We got to get started.
No time like the present.
I try to sound like No, I really don't try to sound like the president. But all right, here comes my first audience question. It kind of goes along with my question. Do you like coffee, tea, or soda? And I'll be throwing up responses while David's talking. But my first question for David, everybody wants to get to know you just a little bit better. And so let's start out with, how many cups of coffee do you drink per week?
Zero. Orange juice, water, and milk. The only three things I pretty much drink. That's it. Maybe an energy drink every once in a while, but no coffee for me. So when they say coffee's for closers, I'm not a closer, so I don't get coffee.
Hey, that's okay. I got orange juice in my little cup right here. So
hey, that works.
Hey,
that works.
I'm gonna throw this out because see, it's a Texas connection.
Oh, hey, Texas Tech. That's where my granddad went to school. So
anyhow, yeah, I went to speak there years ago, and they gave me a mug. So that is kind of fun. If you happen to just be joining us, I'm talking to David Gibson. We're talking about building a live show. And if you're in the audience, tell us whether you like coffee, tea, or soda. And I'm running through some questions here for David to get to know him a little bit better. So, David, what's your favorite restaurant?
Ooh, my favorite restaurant, and I look over at my girlfriend because she's here in my office with me, would have to be Mad Jack's Mountaintop Barbecue in Cloudcroft, New Mexico. They have some of the best Texas Hill Country barbecue, but it's actually in New Mexico. And I look over at my girlfriend because it's actually her uncle's restaurant. So every time we go up there to visit her family, we go up there and we get some amazing barbecue. Favorite thing to get is obviously the brisket. Second favorite would have to be the Chili the Kid sandwich, chopped barbecue brisket with pepper jack cheese and green chili peppers on it.
Wow, that you give us the whole menu of what you like.
That place is good. It is good. And the best part is like anytime they open up, they usually have about a 2-hour long line out front. Because we're kind of family, I get to skip the line. So it makes it taste even better that I don't have to wait.
Oh, that's amazing. I love asking this question because everybody's got a little bit different story. And it's usually a local place that people, or, it's usually, it's not the big chain restaurants. I'm waiting for someone to tell me McDonald's.
And like I really like TGI Fridays. I just really like it.
Yeah. Hey, so Marcello's watching today.
Marcello, thanks for watching and tuning in, sir. Appreciate it. I like your little graphics there. I got to figure out how to be able to do those.
Oh, man. It's so much fun. Yeah. Marcello does a little... now that I'm live, I'm not going to remember. He does drinks with cello, I think is what it's called, on Thursday nights. And
I saw that. Yeah, he does the cocktail with cocktail. I saw that on my LinkedIn feed.
Yeah, it's just kind of a fun little show. He usually brings on a guest and they talk about some things, and it ranges anywhere from an hour and a half to 3.5 hours. So doing here, I wanted to make a shout out to Carolyn because Carolyn is in Melbourne.
Wow.
I want to ask you, Carolyn. See, I'm pulling you into part of the show. She's in Australia. What time is it in Australia? Is it the middle of the night? Anyhow, I think
it's got to be late. I think it's probably 10 p.m. there.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, we got some other people out here leaving a bunch of comments. I'm going to follow this one up. What about at industry events? I think this was in results to the coffee. Do you drink coffee at industry events?
What about at industry events? So Armin, I know Armin. Armin's a great guy. He's from the oil and gas industry. At industry events, no, I still don't. I don't drink at those, especially not at the industry events, because I got to be on my. I got to be on my toes. I got to be able to, conversate with potential clients and everything, and kiss hands, shake babies, that kind of stuff. Even in time of COVID, we got to do it, or rub elbows as it is now.
Yeah. Ranga said good morning and welcome to David. And then
thank you guys, appreciate
Marcello, it. He had another comment. Good beard. Nobody knows this, but before the show, well, now you're gonna know. David and I were commenting about I grew my beard out for a week. This is all I got because I wanted to match David for the show, but I couldn't.
It's funny you say that because about a year ago, I did a LinkedIn Live with a guy named Eric Waller. He calls himself Regular Joe CEO. And so what I did was I was like, all right, I'm going to grow out my beard for him because this guy's got like, down to the middle of his chest kind of beard, really big, full on beard. And so I was like, all right, I'll grow my stubble out for like a week. And that's how this got here because I just left it. I just kept going with it. And so now I have, so you might have the same problem I had. You just start it and then it just kind of keeps going.
Yeah, I just can't grow any facial hair. I love it. I love it from the sense that I don't have to shave every day like some of those people. I can go a number of days. All right, we better jump into our next question. It's going to take us forever to get done with the show at this rate. When you read, are you a paperback person, an ebook person, or not a book person?
I am an audible.com person. I listen to my books. If I'm driving in the car, especially if I'm making like a work trip or something, I drive to Houston, or at least I used to drive to Houston fairly frequently. I made a trip yesterday, but so yesterday I was listening to David Meerman Scott's Fanocracy, his marketing book, and so I can knock out a lot of books just by listening to Audible. I'm not much of the sit still and read kind of person, but I can sit still and listen.
I need to add Audible to my list of options on this one because you're not the first person that's selected Audible books as the way to go.
I'm just gonna keep throwing off all the questions. I'm not gonna. It's always gonna be choice D.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We're talking to David Gibson, and I have one more get to know you question before we're gonna sort of dive into the real big topic. So, this is my ask of everyone in the audience. If you know someone that's thinking about starting a live show or has been talking about starting a live show or is curious about live shows, will you please just leave a comment and tag them in it and say, hey, whatever their name is, you might want to check out this show because I think David's going to have a lot of great information to share in the next, I don't know, half hour to 45 minutes about building a live show.
We can go all day. We can
go
all day. I got nothing else planned.
Nothing else planned.
24 hours of straight live streaming is about to happen.
No, it's not. I got something in an hour and 22 minutes. So
okay.
We'll have to be done before then. But the 24-hour live stream could be a good idea. Here's my last get to know you question. When you were growing up, what career did you want to have?
From a very young age, I wanted to be a car designer. Like I wanted to design cars, like kind of like the concept cars. And then from that, it kind of switched. It morphed over to a race car engineer. And then from there, I got sucked into the oil and gas business. So kind of things turned a lot. Oh, Howard's watching. Excellent.
Yeah. There's Howard. I haven't had anyone on the show that wanted to be a race car engineer before. Marcello wanted to be a stockbroker. I feel like I want to make fun of Marcello now. I've never heard a little kid that told me they wanted to be a stockbroker. How old were you, Marcello, when you said you wanted to be a stockbroker? Because I don't meet many 5 and 6 year olds that say, I want to be a stockbroker and carry my briefcase.
I mean, well, now with Robinhood, you can be a stockbroker essentially, or you can go broke on stocks. That
is true, I guess. Okay. Oh wow, this is fun. Let me see what we got going next.
All right, guys, be sure tag your friends in this. Anybody that you think can learn something from the example show, because Ryan is putting together some amazing content. So if you want to do a podcast, you want to do a live show, to do anything where you are putting out information in this type of platform, this is the show to be able to get your information from.
Yeah,
just wanted to give you a good plug.
I don't even have my logo up on the top. There it is. Oh. I made my logo show up. Yeah. Boop. So if you never joined before, I call this the example show because I wanted to learn how to live stream. So I talked to people. They fall into kind of 3 groups: podcasters, people who've created a show podcasting. I'm doing a series right now on live streamers, specifically LinkedIn live streamers.
Yep.
And social media professionals who maybe you wouldn't traditionally call it a show, but people who put out interesting things consistently on LinkedIn or other social medias that you can connect with. So I talk to people that are interested in creating shows and sharing a message that way. Let's hop into, here's our answer from Marcello. His dad worked at Merrill Lynch, so he wanted to be like his dad. I guess now that's cute. I'm sorry for making fun of you, Marcello. I'm just picturing.
Wait, did your dad have an awesome briefcase?
I'm just picturing 5-year-old Marcello putting on his tie and his suit and getting his briefcase and walking around his room, dreaming of being that stockbroker.
For Halloween, he dressed up as a stockbroker.
Yes. All right. So we're finally getting into the big questions of our show here, but let's start off with the very first one. I want to know, you can even tie into this how you got access to LinkedIn Live, but why did you choose to start a live show on LinkedIn? Because there was very little in your background that said you were interested in media and television. You'd spoken at a couple events. I think you were a guest on a few podcasts before, but
yeah,
I don't know. So tell me about that. How did you get into starting a live show on LinkedIn?
So it's a fairly simple question, but I'll try to be as quick with the answer as possible. So, for me, I had started my own business in 2018, and for the first 6 months, I really wasn't doing as much as like marketing as I was just like making phone calls and just trying to get in touch with the clients that way. And then I kind of got to the point where I was like, all right, I need to be able to do some video content, and I have to take a step back from there. So my mom is a 30-year professional videographer. I grew up in essentially a video household. So when I was in grade school, I think it was like second grade, I had my own show at that point in time where there's a picture of me and my brother sitting next to each other doing like a video show, right? And so I've got like my little papers in front of me and stuff like that. So it's almost like I've been a newscaster since I was fairly young. And so having my mom at my disposal as far as being able to help out with video stuff, in January of last year, I started putting together some just simple 3-minute videos that I was putting out on my LinkedIn channel. And my problem was I hated doing all the editing and rehearsing and trying to be able to get a specific message out in that 2 to 3 minutes, and then capping it off, getting all the post-production stuff, and then putting it out. And so finally, I just kind of got to the point where I was like, I'd rather just go live because it's so much easier for me to just be able to just talk, be real, and then if I mess up, I mess up, and if something goes wrong, it goes wrong. It's no big deal. So at that point in time, there was I think LinkedIn had done the press release the day prior to me making that decision just to be able to start doing a live show. They did the press release the day before saying that they were going to open up, or they were going to start beta testing live streaming on the platform. And I tried to actually go live on my phone, like right then and there in my living room. And obviously it didn't work because I didn't have permission. And so what we did was we applied for it that night, the second day that you could have applied. And in applying, it asked, like, have you ever done any live streaming? Have you ever done any of this? Well, my mom's been a live streamer for years on Facebook, YouTube. She's done all of that stuff, obviously broadcasting television and stuff. So when I applied, I put my resume bit in there, and then I said, I'm kind of the on-air, kind of the personality of it, but then the technical expertise is my mom. And so we put her resume in there at the same time. So it was like 2 people applying at once for one single profile. And I think that's what really kind of pushed it over the edge, is that I had an Emmy-nominated, Cable Ace award-winning, 30-time Telly Award winner on my application with me. So it was like, it's essentially like applying for college and saying that, oh yeah, Albert Einstein's coming with me, So it was, I think that helped out a lot. And so as far as starting the show, it really was just about, I hated doing all the post-production stuff, and I wanted to just be as raw as I possibly could with the live show. And I feel more comfortable going live than having to rehearse stuff and kind of make sure everything's put together nice and neat and for a 2 to 3 minute video.
A ton of good stuff in there. I got a couple of comments on this. I was writing down some notes. I can totally relate to the making short videos. A while ago, last fall, I used to do these 60-second news video updates. It took me like 6 hours to make a 60-second video because when you only got 60 seconds, you don't want to mess up your words. You don't want to stumble over anything. So you shoot it a bunch of times and you try it over, and then you have to go through and add all the the text under it so people can see it on LinkedIn, because everyone doesn't watch LinkedIn video with audio. So you got to put it on there. Yeah, it's just a lot of work. Follow up for you. Are your old shows from when you were a kid, are they available on the internet?
If my mom is watching this, they probably will be soon. If they're not, like, I don't think that there's anything on our YouTube channel. There's definitely a couple of pictures floating around. But I don't know how much of that video content that we have. And like my mom's, like I said, 30-year professional videographer. There's probably like 30 years worth of like video content that's not all tagged, organized, digitally uploaded and stuff. So I would just hope that somewhere it gets a mess before all of that stuff comes out.
Oh, that's really neat. And then I want to jump into this. There's a number of people that have asked me how I got LinkedIn Live access and how that works. I stumbled upon it because I don't know how I got selected, but I was in a fall content creators put on by LinkedIn last fall. And so they invited me to this group. And one of the things was they said, if you want LinkedIn Live access, you just apply for it and we'll get you through the process. So I kind of stumbled into it that way. But I guess, so here's the tips I was told. You need to fill out and tell them what you want to live stream about and tell them how often you plan to live stream. And then one of the other things in the application is tell us about other audiences you have built elsewhere. And
oh, really? So, that wasn't on the application when I did it.
Yeah. And so things like that help. So if you have a Facebook page or a YouTube following, or even if you're LinkedIn Live, tell them about audiences that you've previously built. I think it just shows them you're kind of serious about this and you know how to build an audience and make that work and grow something. So, but it's interesting that you applied jointly with your mom, who's a professional videographer and broadcaster and knows all this stuff.
Yeah. So she, so you probably heard of the live streaming platform Restream.
Yes.
So she's like one of Restream's like beta testers. Like when they put together new software, new stuff, she knows some of the people that work there and they're like, hey, test out this piece of equipment. Right. And so there were a handful of things that we put into the application that really solidified the fact that, one, I've done on-air stuff. I've also done live streaming for other companies. It wasn't within oil and gas or for my own personal brand. There's a company called Ride Smart that hosts motorcycle track days at the F1 track here in Austin. And so we would go out there and do some live streaming events and stuff for them. So there was a lot of stuff that we really packed into that resume. And, the major part of it wasn't me and my on-air personality. It was the fact that the technical expertise of being able to put together a professional show came from my mom's side of it. And, and all her resume and all that stuff's on there. And we gave links to everything. So we really tried to be able to show the fact that, like, look, if we are going to go live, we're going to put together a professional show for a professional social networking website and be able to, consistently put out good content with great interviews. So I can't say that there's a silver bullet to being able to get it. I think the first thing you have to do is just apply. I mean, the worst they could say is just no. But if I would recommend, one, applying, and then two, having already done some live streaming on other platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, get your practice in, and then be able to start, maybe putting together some pre-production videos that you've already put onto LinkedIn I think all of those things would help out greatly in being able to improve your chances of getting approved. And the approval process takes time. Like, we applied in February, we didn't get approved till the first week of May. So it takes time.
Yeah, I've just heard from people that they've applied and never heard anything back. So I guess I've also heard you can apply multiple times. So if you still want in, just apply again and again. We got a couple of comments here. Marco says he thinks it's way easier to go live, delivers message.
Marco's got a great live stream show. So if anybody that's looking for other live streaming content, obviously Marcello, he's one of the LinkedIn livers. So this is like the LL crew right here, LinkedIn Lives. And then also as well as Marco. Marco does some in Spanish. So if you're part of the South America or Central America group, that we've got a lot of people that watch from there. If you guys want, he also does some stuff in Spanish. So be sure to check it out.
Oh, that brings me up. He doesn't. So Marco is from Portugal, and I believe he speaks 4 or 5 languages. And one time I was on a show with him, and there was 4 different languages going on at the same time, and I was getting a kick out of it. But yeah, Marco does marketing, and he's from Portugal, so he does some stuff over in Europe in that area and reaching out to those people. So marketing, good stuff. Him and I have been on shows with each other. Good time, get to know it. A couple other people. So there was a couple people that I'm trying to find my.
And Marco even says, yes, I don't think it's a good idea to start live streaming on LinkedIn yet. Don't have this be your first place. If you are looking for a place to be able to start your live streaming, just to be able to test things out, I highly recommend Facebook or Instagram. Instagram is probably even easier than per se Facebook is, probably because you might have less followers there, but it'll get you used to being on camera and being able to do stuff. That, and like as soon as it's done, I think it's gone within 24 hours. So there's not like a historical aspect to it. Granted, you can delete stuff on Facebook or whatnot, but give those 2 platforms a try as far as when you're getting started with it. And if it's for your business, those are also 2 great places to be able to do it as well.
That is completely true. Couple of people. So we even have people connecting him. Marcello is connecting with Tia. Tia says, great to connect. Backstory, right. Tia and I went to college many years ago. So hi, Tia.
All right.
Yeah.
Tia, thank you for watching the show. We appreciate that.
I think his name is pronounced Johnny. So Johnny, let me know if I'm saying your name correctly, but thanks for tuning in.
I have an international audience on my show, and I butcher names constantly.
Oh, sometimes it's hard, but I try to get them out. One of the new features on LinkedIn, you have the ability to record your voice.
Yes.
And say your name. So if you log on to LinkedIn, right next to somebody, you go to their profile page, right next to their name, there's the ability to click a little sound icon and listen to them pronounce their name. So if you have a name that people commonly mispronounce, it's a good idea to go into your profile and try to record something that says your name in it. It can be kind of helpful for others.
Funny story. I actually called somebody out on that the other day because everybody gets all these spam messages on LinkedIn. I had somebody send me one of those voicemail messages, and the person never even said my name. And so I was like, look, dude, I was like, my name's number 1, it's not hard to pronounce. And I was like, 2, you didn't even mention my name in your voicemail message. I was like, how did you copy paste a voicemail message to me? I was like, this is ridiculous. And the guy just he messaged back. He was like, okay, you got me. And then it was like, just delete, block. Like, we're done here.
Yeah, there's a lot of those going on. Spam messages. Unfortunately, LinkedIn now gets them. I see comments. I get a few myself every week. All right. We got another audience question because we're talking about live streaming. How many live shows do you watch per week? So if you're in the audience, leave that question. My next question for David is, what is the best way to grow a LinkedIn live show?
Uh, the best way to be able to grow a LinkedIn live show, the number one thing is just like growing a beautiful beard. It just takes time. Really, with LinkedIn, it's going to take time. There's a handful of people that I have seen that have really high LinkedIn connection count numbers. And their initial show that they do will have really, really high numbers because LinkedIn helps kind of push you out there when you first get your LinkedIn Live. They'll help push it. But then after that, the numbers will drastically shrink because not as many people are going to get the content's not going to get pushed by LinkedIn. And then people are going to tune into your first one and they're like, oh, this is cool. And then they'll watch and they'll be like, oh, okay, not interested. And then that's it. Like, so that's why when Marco said, like, it's not a good idea to go live on LinkedIn with your first get-go or like to be your first experiment with it. Like, you want to have that process down because when you get the opportunity to capture an audience, you want to be able to make sure you get it right from the get-go. Obviously, this is not something I did. We had a lot of failures in the first couple of shows, so our shows changed a lot over time. But to be able to grow the audience, you want to be able to take time and just steadily keep putting out consistent content. So you want to have, the time that your show is, try to be consistent with that timing. Try to be consistent with the framework and the format of who you're bringing on. It's just like a good restaurant. Like if you go to a restaurant, one of the main reasons you return to a good restaurant is because of the consistency of the food, right? You go in and you have a great steak one time. Well, then the next time you go in, you want that same great quality level of the steak. So when people tune into your show, they're tuning in for that consistency. If you look at like the Joe Rogan podcast, who's a phenomenal example, and more people should watch his show for the technical expertise, not the content. Don't listen to the people talking. You could just watch the show and see how they technically do the things because it's very, very well done. It goes to show his number of years of experience in the film business. But just look at like how technically a lot of the consistency that there is with that show, it works, right? So that's some of the stuff that you really want to be able to focus in on. You don't have to have a gimmick. You don't have to have flashy effects or anything like that. And then after that, start working on, if you're interviewing people and you're bringing guests on, continue to broaden the horizons of guests that you bring on. Because if you bring in a guest, and let's say that they have, 100 followers that come on and watch for them, 2 or 3 of them, 5 or 6 of them, however many, may stick around for your show as well and then become a fan of your show. So that's kind of how you slowly carve out an audience, is by bringing in different people to the show, but keeping it technically consistent. So that would be my quick answer. That's an answer. That's a question that I could talk about for. We could have done the whole hour just on that question.
Well, that's a good one. And on a nice tip that you just dropped at the end there. When you invite guests on your show, or if you become a guest on someone else's show, one of the great things to do is help promote that show. So if you invite a guest on, encourage them to invite their following to the show or to invite people. And especially on LinkedIn, if you have an event, it's easy to just click the invite button and select, 20, 30, 40, 50 of your connections that are maybe interested in following what you're talking about or the topic you're going to be speaking about, and invite them to the show. It's nice. David did this for my show, invited a couple hundred people, actually. He invited and brought in. So some of them are going to be here and watch. Maybe they're going to end up enjoying this type of a show and they're going to want to follow me as well. And on the flip side, if you're a guest on someone else's podcast, you should just try to do that and reach out. It helps you feel more comfortable with the person you're streaming with because you put in a little bit of effort to the show as well to help spread the message and share it.
Yeah. It's the whole cross-pollination. It helps out significantly. Okay.
Hey, we've even got some questions already rolling in.
All right. Excellent.
So we're gonna run with them. Ranga, he does a podcast on data science, and
Ooh, I'm a fan of
healthcare
that.
data science in particular. So interesting. We've been following each other's shows for a while, but what tools would you recommend for a live stream, i.e. what is working behind the scenes of LinkedIn Live? The tool that Ryan is using right now seems pretty good. I don't know. I'll start first because my name's in there, and so it's maybe headed for me. I use, and let me change what we look like. We're going to disappear. Maybe that didn't help, but right now I'm using StreamYard, and StreamYard is, in my opinion, it's just super easy to use this and to invite guests onto my show. It's all run through a web browser, and to invite David into my show, I just send him a link from StreamYard. He clicks on the link and it opens up in his browser, and we're connected. So if you're doing a interview show like this, I think StreamYard is about as easy as it gets for that. And it makes it really easy on your guests, because nobody wants to be on a guest where you have to fumble around over, I can't get my sound and my audio and my video working right. I can't set up this software. I don't want guests to have to install something special to be on my show. So I use a tool just called StreamYard, and it all does it through that. So I don't know, David, what do you use for your show?
So in the beginning, I was using Wirecast, which is essentially like StreamYard on steroids. It's more of a what professionals would use. So like if let's say the Monster Truck series or something was wanting to like broadcast their stuff live, with multiple camera angles and being able to put all the graphics up and being able to pick the stuff that you see, like the graphics and stuff, lower thirds and stuff, that Wirecast would be more of the one there. And so like when we first started, because obviously my mom's a professional at this, like that's what we used in the beginning was Wirecast. When the whole cabin fever crisis of 2020 kind of took over, I was looking at something that was a little bit more simplistic and a little bit easier to use. All right. So that I could just go live at any moment. I don't have to worry about anything else. That's where I started checking out some of the different platforms. And at the time, I was going to go with Restream, but Restream did not allow for you to have guests to come on at the time. They've since changed that. Right. So nothing against Restream. I'd probably be using Restream right now had that feature been available at the time. But then I checked out StreamYard, and StreamYard had an introductory opportunity where it's free. So I was like, this doesn't cost me anything, and I can go live with it right now. Let's give it a shot. Gave it a shot, and the platform is very, very simple to use, very, very user-friendly, very easy. There are some features that I would like to be able to see still in there, but for the most part, for the price that I pay, because I went ahead and bumped up to the next level to where I could put like my graphics and things on the show. That's what I picked. So as far as software wise, that's what I use. I've gotten a whole lot of questions that are like, what microphone do you use? What camera do you use? What lighting system do you use? So the microphone that I use, bring that up into the shot there. This was $60 on Amazon. It had decent reviews. It wasn't the best one. I was just like, it is one, and it as long as it works, I'm fine with that. So I went with I don't even know what brand it is. It was just $65. I was like, that's a fair price. The webcam that I'm using and that's what I'm using. I'm using a webcam, so I'm not using a DSLR or a high profile like Sony cam or anything like this. It's a Logitech 1080p or 1280. I can't remember. It's written on there. Anyways, it's a Logitech webcam. It's a nicer webcam. It's about $126, $150. They're pretty much sold out because of this whole cabin fever thing. So like in March, when we were actually my mom and I were actually putting together like how to set up, video conferencing and stuff. And we're like, here's the Amazon links to everything. And then like all the things we had linked to were all sold out. And we're like, okay, well, maybe this video is not going to work out. So just a good 1280 or 1080p or high def webcam. And then I've got a ring light that's behind me. That's probably, I think the whole package for it was like $100. I think they're a lot cheaper now. You can probably get one for about $60 that's sitting on a stand, and that's it. Like, I mean, for $25 a month, 65. I mean, you're probably looking at like $300 investment as far as hardware and software, and the software's, StreamYard's $25 a month. That's it. Other than that, there's a little bit of time that goes into putting into some of the graphics that I do. And I mean, obviously Ryan's done too. He's got his stuff on here as well. And I think that's it. I should say this though, should preface this. Having a show, the interaction, the audience, like the actual live streaming portion of it is the easiest part of the show. By far, 110%. This is the easiest part. This is also the shortest part of having the show. All the work starts beforehand and afterwards. There's so much work before and after. It's unreal. But I should just put that in there. So just in case somebody's like, oh, $400, and then we'll just start live streaming. That's it. Yes, there's a lot of work
that goes into creating a show. Things like promoting it. One of the things I do is after this live show, I like to go through and pull out, clips where David or I, 60-second, 80, 90-second clips where one of us said something really meaningful and it's a great piece of content. I cut that out and put text underneath it so it's transcribed and shared out on LinkedIn and social media there. So all that just takes time.
Yes.
And one of the other things, a lot of times when people talk about live streaming, and you kind of mentioned this in your professional and stuff, the first questions you get is what type of camera do you use? What type of microphone do you use? And the reality is the camera and the microphone don't necessarily make your show.
No.
But
not at all.
So when David said, make sure you've tried to live stream somewhere else before you jump into LinkedIn. Reason being for that is you people who are watching can't really see this, but I mean, I've got a screen in front of me and I've got LinkedIn on a different screen over there. I've got comments rolling in down on the right. And just the first time you go live, and you see this a lot, people who are live for their first time, and it's why I wish LinkedIn would not heavily push your first live stream. I think they should heavily push your second live stream, because the first time people go live, this is what they say. They say, am I live? Am I live yet? Hello? Is this working? And
can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
I still do that on occasion. I'm so like, hey, everybody comment in the comment section. Let me know that you could hear me, just so that we know that the audio is working. Because I had so many problems early on. Like anybody that watches LinkedIn Live now, man, a year ago, it was a completely different story for all the LinkedIn Live people. Like, you could be able to broadcast live one day and the next, not the next. Like, it was up or down, hit or miss. There were some times where like you're supposed to pick like a certain server to be able to broadcast to. Like, there were a lot of different things that went into this that made things not work. And so like just being able to get the audio out was like, that was a Hail Mary. And like just being able to see the comments roll in. I remember trying to do this live. Like, we would have the camera going and stuff like that, and then I would try to see all the comments on my phone, and you would see like 2 comments, and then you'd be like, oh, nobody's commenting on the show, and you get done, and then I'd have people blowing my phone up and be like, dude, I was commenting, I was answering questions, I was asking questions, I was doing all the stuff you were asking, why didn't you see any of it? And it's like, oh, none of it was showing up. So
yeah, I've had that one. Even in the last 3 months, that has changed, that you couldn't see comments, and now you can. And you can see, I can bring them up on my screen so I can see them. Another thing, when you talk about live show and being professional, I mean, you can look at both David and I said, we both showed up. He joked before the show that we showed up in matching black t-shirts, But if you can look behind us, I mean, we don't have, I don't know if you want to call this a real professional setting. I picked a room in my house and I kind of like it, but I'm sitting in front of a window, so the lighting's good, but I haven't really built out my background real well. I actually, this wall over here I need to put this up on LinkedIn sometime and ask. I need to put something on this wall. So if you have suggestions,
Well, I've got my my rig that I drew on back here, and if my girlfriend's listening, maybe she'll turn on the lights to it for me. She's rolling her eyes, but she's doing it now. I used to have a studio that I built into my office, like a full blown studio. Cameras. Oh, there are the lights.
nice.
Full blown studio and everything set up in here. But then because of COVID, I couldn't have any more in-person interviews, so they were just like, screw it, and we tore it down, and pieces of it are now behind me. So these are full from floor to ceiling panels that used to be the 3 panel piece that was like the studio. So then we drilled holes in it and drew a rig on it. So that's what we do now. So you don't have to do these things. Yeah, you don't have to do these things.
Start a live show. I mean, get yourself a camera and a microphone, because I think they're both important, but you do not have to buy a $500,000 camera. You can just buy the Logitech webcams. I have the Logitech C920. It does 1080p, but at the time I bought it, it was $60. I don't know if you can still buy it anymore.
And here's the thing that, like, I think it's changed now. I haven't seen any press release from LinkedIn about this, but when we first started doing the live streaming on LinkedIn, it only broadcasts at 720. That was it. Like, you didn't get to broadcast at 1080. Now, StreamYard says that you can pay for the like 3rd tier version, and then you can broadcast at 1080 to LinkedIn and some of these other channels. But the thing is like, for most people to be able to stream something like this, not only for myself and for the viewer, you have to take into consideration, like, what are they going to be viewing it at? It's like a 4K television. So you don't need 4K when 99% of the content that's being put out is just in HD. It's like, you don't need a 3D TV when there's only 0.1% of all the content that's being put out is in 3D, right? So you just got to be able to take into consideration, what is your audience even able to watch in? So I know I have a very large international audience. I know I have people that are watching in areas of Africa, Central and South America, where they've told me that, like, their internet's not the best right now. And so they'll watch on YouTube, because when it's on YouTube, it gets better refresh and frame rate. But I guarantee you, they're not watching in 1080. So there's no point in having a 1080 or a high definition or a 4K camera recording you if the content can't even be consumed at those same rates, right? So that's why I said, like, and I don't know how many people have asked me, like, oh my gosh, your camera is so clear and it's so crisp and stuff. Yeah, I was like, yeah, it's just a webcam.
Yeah. Here's a tip for that. Oftentimes, just getting a little bit better lighting is way better than going out and buy a fancy camera. So that's why you can't see it, but behind my screen and behind my camera, there's a window. And then I just have lights in my room, but the lighting makes your $60 camera look like a $500 camera.
Yes, so that's true. Because so in that case, yeah, if you were shooting, like, let's say you wanted to do a live show that's outdoors, right, and you don't have as much control over the lighting. I did a live episode when I was on vacation. I was in front of the Lincoln National Forest and stuff, and so the behind me was a bright color, right, as opposed to right now we've got kind of like a flat, the brighter color. I didn't have a light on my face. Now, granted, the sun was coming this way. If I wanted to be a little bit more of a silhouette and more well lit, yes. If I would have had, the $2,000 camera, it probably would have looked great and it would have overcome the lighting effect. But in an office situation like I am now, just a good camera, it can see that contrast better, and you'll see, like, if I get like really close up like this and then I back away, then you'll see like the color change. That's the camera doing the work. So those are the things to be able to take in consideration. Like, if you are doing something outside and you don't have as much control of the lighting, then yes, maybe a higher dollar camera will help with those things. But then you also need to know how to operate it. Because just setting on autopilot and say auto functions doesn't always get the trick done. But you're exactly right, Ryan. That's a great bit of information for people, is to just possibly invest a little bit in the lighting, and making sure that there's a window behind you, so that like if Ryan was to do a 180 and then the window's behind him, that would make for a terrible shot, because then he'd just be this whited out silhouette or whatnot. So those are great things to be able to take into consideration.
Yeah. All right. We got to jump back into some comments.
Yes.
So Ranga, he does the U Plus AI podcast, focus on healthcare and AI. Couple of comments out here. Max said, so cool. He's liking this. Roy said, the number of shows I watch each week depends on the content.
Roy's a great guy. Just got a job. What's the name of the company? Site Pro. He just got a new job with the guys at Site Pro. So congratulations to Roy on that. And he also just had a little one too, about a month ago. So
wow, Roy. Well, congratulations. You got a lot going on in your life. I love that we actually know these people who are commenting, because some of them we've met in real life, some of them we know, some of them we just follow on the internet, but it's kind of fun. Another one, Go Palin, he watches a number of my shows, and we're connected on LinkedIn, and maybe I'm going to get him on the show if I do a social media series in the future. But what is the duration of live show that you recommend? And I'm going to throw that over to you, David.
So once again, that's going to kind of depend on your content, what platform that you're broadcasting live on as well. So like one of the quote unquote rules for broadcasting on LinkedIn is they say that they want you to broadcast for at least 15 minutes on LinkedIn. Now for other platforms, I would say that you need to broadcast probably for at least 5 minutes on Facebook or YouTube. Instagram, you could probably go for less than 5 minutes to be able to kind of get your practice, or if you're doing something that is specific to kind of your show or your style. Granted, since we are here on LinkedIn and this is probably where the majority of the audience came from for this, I would say you can go as long as you want. Honestly, long as the audience's attention is still there. I've gone as long as, I think it was like 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 30 minutes. We did an episode with Dr. Caitlin Teodoro out of OU, and Dr. C is one of those guys, like if you give him the platform, he's just going to talk all day. But we kept an audience of over 100 viewers the entire time. So we had the audience there the whole stretch. And so like I'll look at my shows as I'm kind of going along. If we kind of get towards, we've gone through the meat of the show and we're kind of towards the end, we're doing the Q&A. If the questions are still rolling in and people are active in the show, we keep going. If the questions start to kind of taper off and there's onesie twosies and stuff, and we're finishing questions and I'm not seeing new questions pop up, then I'll just call it at that point in time. We'll say, all right, that's good. So just kind of think about the show that you're doing, kind of think about the content that you're watching. If you're bringing somebody on and they're just giving like a quick little PSA about a new technology or some recent news, then those things will probably be a little bit shorter, maybe 15, 20 minutes max. If you're doing an interview style show, I think a great time for those, like this one, is right at about an hour. If you're doing webinar stuff where it's Q&A and people are getting to ask questions and there's a technical expert or there's somebody on there that they probably don't get access to, that's where you can go over the hour, 2 hour mark with somebody like that.
Yeah. And to follow up on that, both David and I do weekly shows, and some people do them more frequently than that. Some people do them less frequently. That just comes down to figuring out how much work it takes to put in a show and then how often you can do that.
Yeah,
and
I'm taking a month off right now because it is an insane amount of work that a lot of people, I don't think, see how much goes into pre and post prep. And for anybody who's thinking about doing a live show, and this has been some of my top advice for a long time. The hardest thing about doing a live show is getting the guest onto the show. If you're doing interviews like this, right? Booking guests and planning it out ahead of time is the hardest part, because especially in a COVID era where you're not doing in-person interviews, because it is so easy for somebody to cancel. They're not driving to your studio. They're not taking the morning off of work. They're not, booking a hotel room, things of that nature. They're just like, oh yeah, I just need to be on at 8. Well, a call came in, or I had to drop off my kids, or I had to do this other thing. The show's not going to be always their number one priority. So being able to book the guest and make sure that the guest doesn't cancel can be the hardest thing. I've had probably the day before or the week of, I've had at least 20 people cancel on me. And so it's just gut wrenching. And that takes the wind out of your sails when you've done so much work and you started to publicize that that's the person that's coming on, and you're doing all this marketing and you putting all the stuff in, and then they cancel. It makes you really just want to go, okay, I'm not doing this for a while. So not that I've had that happen lately, but I am taking a month off because there is so much work involved.
There's a lot there. I got to jump in. So one thing, throw out to the audience. We're going to probably run over our hour time limit, and that's okay because we got good conversation going on. So, but if you have a question, drop it in the comments, and David or I will try to get to it. I have a couple other comments to bring up. Marco, he nailed it, and this goes back to the having an affordable setup. And yeah, I mean, he started 2 years, he started like 4 years ago, I think. But when he started, he didn't even have the right internet connection speed. And sometimes that's the case for you. But I think one of the big things is don't break your budget to start a live stream show.
No.
At least do what you need. Even borrow a camera and a microphone from somebody else if you need to, and try the idea of going live and see if you even enjoy it. Because there's no sense in spending hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, get a bunch of equipment, doing 2 shows and realizing this isn't even fun for me.
Just go live on Facebook. It's free. It's not going to take a lot of time. Facebook or Instagram, I think, are the 2 best places to be able to start. FYI, if you try to go live on YouTube, if you're mobile, you have to have at least 1,000 users or 1,000 subscribers to be able to do it mobile for YouTube. And you have to be pre-approved, which their pre-approval process is like 24 hours. It doesn't take long. So I would say Facebook or Instagram are the 2 best places to be able to start, because you can do it from your phone. You can do it immediately. You don't have to ask for any permissions. You just go with it. So those are probably the 2 best places to be able to start and see how comfortable you are with just being able to talk and have conversation, and be able to get used to having conversation where you think nobody's watching. Essentially, you're just talking to yourself. So you have to be able to fill those time gaps with your own voice. So those times can be extremely difficult, and they are really going to kind of challenge you to your core. To be able to see, can you just keep talking? And then you'll start watching sporting events and other things, and you'll be like, oh, wow, like these UFC commentators are doing really good because there's not much going on in the fight, but they just keep on talking because you don't want dead air.
Yes. And another thing that comes up, and I know you and I have both had this show up, especially during COVID, things happen in your show, like a child runs into your room and gets on the camera, and you have to be comfortable enough to not panic, both as a host and a guest. Like a couple of weeks ago, I had my daughter come in, really wasn't a big deal. She came into the show. I just tossed it back to the guest and said, will you tell people how they can get in touch with you? And so then I was off camera for about 30 seconds, and it kind of worked, but you have to be able to roll with some of those things. Let's
that's the great thing about live is the authenticity. Do not have a professional show to a certain extent, but don't be so professional that you get rid of your personality and your authenticity. My kiddos have jumped in on several of my shows and have come on screen, and I absolutely if they do it, it's great. We talked about this in the LinkedIn Live group meeting the other day. I was like, if my daughter jumps in, everybody's like, oh my God. Like the metrics on shows where Brooklyn's in it versus out, they're always significantly higher, right? And she'll just be like, hi everybody, so just learn to be able to kind of roll with it.
Yeah, they do. All right. We're getting a couple of questions. I even have more questions to ask of you, but we'll see
keep going. Keep going.
Go Palin. He said he loved it when David mentioned what goes on before and after the shows. Is it much more than what's just what people see on the show? It reminds me of a surgical operation, which is similar. So Go Palin is, I don't know if he's still a surgeon, but he used to be a surgeon.
Oh, wow.
And So yeah, that's why him and Ranga know each other, because he was on Ranga's U plus AI healthcare podcast a while ago. But yeah, it's just interesting to think about that. I guess it makes sense with surgery. I'm glad to know when someone does surgery on me, they put in a little bit of preparation first. All right. So half of this question, I think we previously answered. What software do you guys utilize for live show, and what software do you utilize to edit and cut video? So I'll throw live show. We mentioned Restream we've used, and StreamYard are what both of us.
Yeah, both of us are using StreamYard
mostly. But I don't know, David, what do you use for editing and cutting your videos?
I don't edit or cut any of my videos, so nothing. if it is done, if there's any editing or cutting done, it's done by my mom, and she uses some super expensive. She uses Final Cut Pro, so she has like the legit, stuff. But there's a lot of off the shelf. Like, you can find a bunch of free stuff that's online. If I'm doing anything mobile wise, I use Splice. It's fairly easy to use, pretty quick. If you have a Mac, I think Movie Maker. I can't remember. It's one of the programs that I think used to come with iMovie. I've used that one in the past, and it was fairly easy to learn. There's a lot of like online content as far as how to learn how to be able to use it. So I think Adobe's got a program out there. My big thing is like, if you're going to use like a software for doing any of the cutting and editing, make sure that there's good online content for it. So like other YouTube videos that show you how to be able to do stuff. Because as you get started doing it, you're going to have, just like any other software, you're going to have tons of questions. And if you can't find the answers to those questions fairly quickly, or if you have to wait to like put it in a forum and then ask the question and wait for somebody to respond and stuff, to me, it's just not worth it. I want to be able to like search it on YouTube and see that there's like 20 examples already there. And that's kind of the route that I go.
Right. So thank you, Armin, for that question. I'll add a little bit of that. I use Camtasia. It's not free. I had to pay for it. I think if you have a Windows device, you can use Microsoft Photos. Now has the ability to trim videos. So if all you want to do is cut out a 60-second version of it, you maybe don't want to change color, you don't want to throw text over it, just want to trim it down. I think you can do that for free with Windows Photos. Marco threw out DaVinci Resolve is a good option. It's free. I've never used that one, but if Marco recommends it, I would say it's a good recommendation.
Yeah.
One other thing, I pay for a different service called Zubtitle, Zubtittle, which will transcribe my videos and resize them and put the transcription of the text underneath it. Because I realized I was spending a ton of time going through and manually typing up those transcriptions. So I paid for a service to do that. So I do a little bit of that post-production.
Now, if I will say this, if you do broadcast live to YouTube and I believe on Facebook, they do auto-transcribe it.
That is true. YouTube will auto-transcribe it.
And what's really cool about the YouTube one is if somebody says something during your YouTube live, say you say Frankenstein or something, right? So we just did it during this one. Now, if somebody searches Frankenstein, right, that will come up under YouTube's algorithm, their search algorithm. I had somebody that said something very specific on one of my shows, and then I was actually searching for that thing later on, and my show came up. But none of the hashtags, none of the comments, none of anything else that was only mentioned during the show. And I believe, so it gave me the belief that came from the fact that it was auto-transcribed, that put that in there, that it became like a search tag. So
yeah,
interesting stuff for you.
Google and Facebook are really smart on that stuff. Some of it gets a little bit creepy in there. But Rango left a comment that said, Microsoft Photos can trim things, and Windows Movie Maker is another good one. I had one other comment on duration. I think Gopalin asked about duration. I believe at about 19 minutes of a live show is when you get the maximum amount of your audience showing up, like statistically speaking. That's what I've heard. So you should go live for at least 19 minutes. I have some other thoughts on this one. I've had this idea because on LinkedIn, when you go live or even after you're done going live, it tends to show that into people's notifications more often. I've wondered if I went live for 2 minutes and recorded a 2-minute video live instead of pre-recording a 2-minute video, if that would get more reach because it was live and LinkedIn would push it out to more people. But that's just a thought there. But
the only difference is that how the comments work then. So then you don't get notifications of the comments. And so there's not much of a conversation that takes place afterwards with the comments. So that's one of those things. It just depends on what you're putting out there. So I mean, this is a great concept. So if you're like, okay, I've got about 5 minutes or 10 minutes worth of content here. Do I want to put it out as a live and it gets better reach? Or do I want to put this out there and I want to be able to engage with people in the comment section after they've watched it? Right. So once the live content's out there, the comment section is pretty much dead. All right.
There's not a lot doesn't do a very good job of tracking those comments either.
And so once that's happened, unless you manually go back to it, there's no notifications about it. Unless you're manually kind of going back to it, you're really not going to see much in there. So it's either you do the interaction during the live portion, or if you want to have the comment section for the pre-recorded video, which brings me to another great point. Anybody that is doing a live show, one of the most important things you have to remember is doing a live show is about interacting with the audience. Ryan has been doing a phenomenal job with that today. So congratulations with that. Phenomenal job of interacting with the audience. I've seen so many people go live and they never even address the audience. There's no point in going live at all. 100%. No point in going live if you're not going to interact with the audience. You should have just recorded the video and then uploaded it to YouTube afterwards if you're not going to comment and talk to them. The only way out of that is if you have like breaking news, right? Think about your Channel 5 news or Channel 10 news, whatever it is in your local area. Like they go live because it is late breaking. It is supposed to be breaking news. It's exactly that. It's something new. It's happening right now. This is what's happened since like noon today or whatever, right? And they go live with it, right? Otherwise, just be pre-recorded, right? So if you're going to go live, interact with your audience. And that goes back to one of the questions Ryan asked earlier, how to be able to grow your audience, interact constantly throughout the entire show, be engaged with them, have them be a part of it, see that they're talking, that they're interacting. So, Go Palan, Armin, Marco, all of these people that are talking here, we want to be able to, it's not so much you're giving them a shout out, it's you're having a conversation with them. Their part just happens to be coming in through text.
Yeah, and Go Palan hits this right on the head. Live shows are more lively any day. And I mean, it's really true that the interaction of the live shows is what makes them important. It's one of the reasons I have not yet turned my show into a podcast, because if I just stripped out the audio, I think it's going to be clunky listening to it after the fact, because after every question you answer, I start answering questions from the audience and bringing up things. I think if I wanted to be successful in turning this into a podcast, I think I'd have to chop it up, because there's tons of great knowledge. I've asked you good questions. The audience has asked you good questions. You provided good answers, but I need to chop those parts out and just put that together into an audio podcast and take out the information where I'm talking to the audience and asking the audience to give me their questions. Because live on a podcast, there's an interaction there. So asking them to leave a question doesn't make sense on a podcast. A couple other shout outs. Lindy,
thank you.
Lindy show up on the show.
She does the state stuff for people who are moving. I think she did a show the other day about expats and moving and stuff. So putting out great content there.
Yeah. So Lindy is a relocation real estate focusing on if you're relocating for a job and you need to find a place to live in those, which I think she's the only one I know that does that. But she's a live streamer as well, and I'm actually hoping to have her on the show sometime in the coming weeks as part of this LinkedIn live streamer series. Oh, we got all sorts of stuff coming in. Ranga says, interacting with the audience is key on a live show. And thank you, Ranga. I'm trying to do a good job of this. There's a lot coming in here today. We're getting pretty close to wrapping this up, but I'm trying to. Here's my last question. I usually ask this earlier in the show, but I'm going to ask you right now.
Okay.
And this is kind of my freebie to you to talk about whatever. What question do you wish I would have asked you?
Oh, and that is a good question.
Great question.
That's like one that actually kind of like stumps me. And I'm like, oh fuck, I don't know. I honestly I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. I mean, we've covered so much. You've asked phenomenal questions and everything. How to get in touch with me. So guys, if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, follow Ryan on LinkedIn. If you're not connected with him, be sure to reach out and connect with him. I think the big thing that I'm asking an audience for right now is if you guys can, please, I don't have 1,000 on YouTube yet. And so I can't broadcast live from a mobile platform on YouTube just yet. I'm working on a very special project and I need the 1,000 subscribers. I think I'm sitting at like 400 or something like that. So I need that last like 600 to come in. So that might've been the questions. Like how could I help you? And that would be it.
Hey, there we go. So go out to David's YouTube channel.
Yeah. It's not hard to find. Just look up Vidor Locksmith or Gibson Reports or youtube.com/C/Gibson Reports. And you'll be there. You'll see it. Just hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything. And I promise I'm not making money off of it or anything like that. But there you go.
Yeah. Anyhow, you can throw the link out into the comment section. I'll maybe put it on the screen, and I think we'll show that. I'll share that in the LinkedIn event afterward. Yeah, that's I just like to ask that question because I usually ask it at the 30-minute mark when we're maybe about half done with our show. But I think now we're at the 70-minute mark already, so we've covered more content than we usually cover. But
I don't know why everybody's
to David's YouTube.
I always go on people's show and they always end up going longer than they anticipate. I don't know why. I probably just talk too much.
I don't know.
My girlfriend's shaking her head. Yes.
I shoot for 45 minutes, but I can tell you, just looking at numbers, one of the things, if you're live streaming, don't forget, people rarely tune in at the very beginning and watch the whole thing.
That's true.
It just, especially if it's a long show like ours is, we're well over an hour now. Most people don't have an hour to just sit and watch. So it's a good thing to remember. 45 minutes into the show, you have people joining that maybe haven't watched the rest of it before. Like last night, I joined Marcello's Drinks with Cello show an hour into it, and it was an hour and a half long. And so,
hashtag cocktails with cello.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And if you are a live streamer, don't get caught up in the numbers. Also, don't get caught up. I barely mentioned this earlier. Don't get caught up in the number of connections that you've got or the LinkedIn audience you've got when you do your LinkedIn Live. Because I have seen some people who have got like 600,000 connections or something, and then they go live and they get maybe 8 comments, maybe 10 likes. I've seen companies that have got like 45,000 followers go live and get zilch, one like throughout an hour and a half broadcast, right? So the thing to think about, especially with LinkedIn, this really starts to make a difference, not just with your live content, but any of the content that you're putting out on LinkedIn. If you have an audience that is active and engaged with the platform itself, that's going to bode so much. That's going to do so much more for your channel and your show and being able to get it out there than it is to like have, 80,000 connections or 80,000 followers, 100,000 followers on LinkedIn. You can buy all the followers you want, but you cannot buy people's actual engagement on a live show.
Yes.
So you can pay for likes on other stuff. You can pay for comments. You can pay for followers and stuff, but you cannot pay for LinkedIn live engagement.
Yeah. Engagement is the key with whether it's live or not. Even if you put out a post, LinkedIn shows it to more people based on how many people liked it and commented on it. And the more people that like it and comment on it, the more they show it to. And it just kind of becomes a snowball effect of once you get people to like and comment, more people are going to see it so they can like and comment. And it kind of works. All right. I'm trying to look through. I have a bunch of other questions that I was going to ask.
If you guys have any questions that we haven't answered, feel free to reach out to Ryan after the show or to myself after the show. I will be happy to answer any of the questions. We could always do a part 2 on my show, have Ryan come on to my show, and then we can talk about even more stuff. Just have the glasses and black shirt duo go at it again.
We could. I will switch it up if I come on your show. I'll wear a different color shirt. But
we'll just see if we end up wearing the same color that as well.
Yeah. Okay. This is the last one because I kind of mentioned before that we were maybe going to talk about this.
Oh, yes.
And I think I'm going to expand this more than just sponsorships. I'm going to ask about how do you plan to make money off live streaming and sort of just kind of talk about that in a broad sense of do you make money live streaming or how do you do that?
So as of right now, I have not made any money on live streaming. I know that some people do make money off of it, which is great. I'm happy for them. I have not as of yet. I have been engaging in conversations with people recently about taking the sponsorship routes and taking it serious as far as bringing them on. It's actually one of the things on my to-do list is to call somebody today about that. Early on, one of the guys that I talked to is out of the Dallas area, and he's got a LinkedIn live show. It's called Dialed In with Kyle. I talked to him about it, and he said he never wanted to be able to take a sponsorship because he always wanted his show to be his. And I was in the process of accepting a sponsorship opportunity, and some of the things they were asking me to do made me not feel comfortable with it. So I actually stepped back. So I think before you start thinking about making money off of the show, make sure the show is you and it's something that's authentic to you and something you enjoy doing first. So then if you are able to monetize it, that's just the icing on the cake. Monetization also comes in several different formats, as well as like, this is just kind of my philosophy behind marketing. If you're a company, and let's say it's not even LinkedIn Live or live shows in general, if you are marketing a product, right, or you're marketing your company, you're building your brand, right? And in doing so, right, you're not just selling product, you're also selling people on the idea that you are an established company, you're to work at. So things that can come out of that could be the fact that when you put a job application out there, that you get 20 more applicants or you get 20 better applicants than you would have if you weren't doing some of those things. So the same kind of goes with my show. I get better notoriety. And, this is kind of one of these, moments that I had yesterday. I was talking to my girlfriend about this, like prior to a couple of years ago in the industry, I could go to industry events and, just normally introduce myself and, people hadn't heard of me or my company. Yesterday, I didn't have to introduce myself once. All the people that I didn't know walked up to me and go, "Oh, hey, David." And I was like, I don't know who you are. So that meme that says like, I'm going to hustle so hard until I don't have to introduce myself, like that happened yesterday for me. Right. And so like, that's not a monetary thing. That's not me getting a sponsorship, but that is like, there are ways to be able to benefit from that. And it's like, people know who I am. They know what my business is. And a lot of the things that I'm getting now, as far as opportunities, it's the opportunity to be able to come on to different companies and help with their business development, and help with their strategy, and be able to coach them through like, how do we start to produce content? How do we do some of these other things? Right. So don't start off down the path of saying like, I'm going to do LinkedIn Live and then I'm going to get $150 every show, or I'm going to get $1,000 or $2,000 every show. Just for numbers' sake, I will tell people this. I do know of a company that is looking for sponsorships, and they're looking north of $150,000 for 1 year's worth of sponsorship for LinkedIn Live content, right? So I haven't made any sales on that yet. I don't know. It's to be seen. But there is the possibility for sponsorship and monetization off of it. Now that also has to go back to your industry. So Gabalan and Ragnar, they're in the healthcare AI industry. or healthcare industry, they probably have the opportunities to be able to get significant numbers. If you're in something a little bit different, maybe the numbers are a little bit smaller, right? So you just have to be able to take all of those things into consideration. Sponsorships is something not to be taken lightly because it is an agreement. And if you say you're going to do 10 episodes, you got to do 10 episodes. If you say you're going to do 50 episodes, you got to put out 50 episodes. And you also have to have their interest at heart in being able to do what is best for your client, because that's what they become. They become a client. And then that transitions into a whole nother topic of customer service and things of that nature. So, sponsorships are definitely there. There are people that are looking for it. If that is a route you can go, do it. More power to you. I just haven't done it or I have not accepted a sponsorship opportunity as of yet.
Yeah, it's really important when you, whether you're a blogger or a YouTuber or any type of content creator, if you're going to work with companies to advertise, it has to be a company that you really believe in their product, and it helps if you're already a user. Like StreamYard is something I've been using for months. I really like it. Like something like that would make sense as a sponsor on this show. But
yes,
yeah, so it has to make sense. And back to one of your very first points, you have to keep the show yours. Like you can't take sponsorships and start doing what they want for the show because your audience isn't going to like it.
No, they're not. And the audience will tell you with the viewership numbers, and the viewership numbers drop drastically, and it'll be extremely difficult to get them back to where they were, even if the sponsorship's gone.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think our comments.
You've got something to go do.
What?
I said you've got something you got to go do. So
I do. I got 8 minutes, but that's okay. But that's all right. An hour and 22 minutes is probably long enough to live stream. Maybe we'll have to do a version 2 somewhere or sometime. But anyhow, thank you, David, so much for being a part of the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Steve, I can't get his last name right. Ferraria. Steve Ferraria. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. I have to get clarification on that. I'm gonna have to go to LinkedIn and listen to how you pronounce his last name. But he works in the shipping industry. He's a LinkedIn live streamer, and he does a weekly show where he talks all about the latest news of how the shipping industry, and I'm talking about boats to bring over large crates, how that is affecting the whole rest of the economy. And I've tuned in a few times for parts of his shows, and it's kind of fascinating that boats and shipping actually makes a pretty large effect on the entire economy, US and worldwide. But we're going to be talking to him next week. So thank you, David, so much for being on the show. Everybody
appreciate it,
David. And
I did it wrong. Still, this guy's awesome.
Yeah, we gotta get our arrows right. Anyhow, goodbye, everybody. Have a great day, David. I'm gonna ask you to hang on so that.
Thanks, Marco. Thanks, Noel, Lindy, everybody else is watching.
Hey, yeah. So thanks. Goodbye, folks.
Later, guys.